Co-sex addiction. When physical intimacy becomes addictive. A few years ago, I treated a patient, let's call him Mark, who struggled with something that wasn't easy for him to talk about. Mark found himself constantly seeking out physical intimacy, not because he craved connection or love, but because he needed the physical high it brought. It became a way for him to feel alive, to escape his emotional pain. He wasn't in control anymore. His need for that rush controlled him. Today, we're talking about co-sex addiction. When physical intimacy becomes a way to escape pain, loneliness, or a need for validation, rather than a way to connect emotionally. If you've ever felt like you're using physical intimacy as a way to numb or avoid your emotions, this video is for you. Defining co-sex addiction. Co-sex addiction is when physical intimacy becomes an escape. It's not about love or connection. It's about arousal and pleasure, and sometimes even control. For Mark, intimacy was no longer about building a relationship. It was about getting that physical. And when he wasn't engaging in it, he felt empty, anxious, and restless. This is what makes co-sex addiction so powerful. It's not just a habit. It's a way to cope with deeper emotional pain. Have you ever found yourself seeking out intimacy? Not because you wanted to connect, but because you needed to feel something, anything. This is where the line blurs between healthy intimacy and addiction. Recognizing co-sex addiction in your own life. Here are a few signs that physical intimacy may have crossed into addiction. It becomes a way to escape. If you find yourself using intimacy to avoid emotions like loneliness, stress, or sadness, this is a key red flag. You feel compelled, not connected. Instead of wanting to connect with your partner, you feel a compulsion to seek out intimacy for the physical high. It's disrupting your life. If your pursuit of intimacy is interfering with your work, relationships, or well-being, it may be time to take a step back and reflect. Do any of these signs sound familiar? If so, it's important to recognize that intimacy, like any other addictive behavior, can become a way to escape from deeper issues. The emotional drivers behind co-sex addiction. Co-sex addiction, like other addictions, is driven by emotional needs. Arousal and control being the most prominent. Mark's story is a perfect example of this. He craved the arousal because it helped him escape from his feelings of worthlessness and loneliness. The physical high masked the emotional emptiness he felt inside. Another patient I treated, let's call her Emily, sought out intimacy as a way to regain control in her life. She felt powerless in her day-to-day world. But in moments of physical connection, she felt like she could control how others saw and treated her. But this was just a temporary fix. It didn't address the deeper wounds driving her behavior. Does this resonate with you? Do you find yourself seeking intimacy to fill an emotional void, to feel in control, or to escape from pain? If so, it's important to recognize that these emotional drivers are masking the real issues underneath. How to start healing from co-sex addiction. Here are a few steps to start healing from co-sex addiction. First, identify the emotional drivers. Ask yourself, what emotional need am I trying to fulfill through intimacy? Is it validation, arousal, or control? Once you've identified the emotional driver, you can start addressing it directly. Develop healthy boundaries. Start setting boundaries around intimacy. This could mean taking a break from physical relationships or creating guidelines with your partner to focus on an emotional connection rather than just the physical. Seek emotional support. Healing from co-sex addiction often requires outside support, whether through therapy, support groups, or trusted friends who understand what you're going through. Think about your relationship with intimacy. What emotional need have you been trying to fulfill? And how can you start addressing that need in healthier ways? Building a healthy relationship with intimacy. Rebuilding a healthy relationship with intimacy takes time, but it's absolutely possible. Start by focusing on emotional connection first. Intimacy should be an expression of trust, vulnerability, and love, not a way to escape or control. By addressing the underlying emotional wounds, you can begin to experience intimacy in a more meaningful and fulfilling way. What steps can you take to rebuild a healthy, emotionally connected relationship with intimacy? Whether it's setting boundaries, seeking support, or focusing on emotional connection first, each step brings you closer to healing. Breaking free from co-sex addiction is about more than just stopping a behavior. It's about healing the emotional wounds that drive it. In the next video, we'll dive deep into self-appearance obsession and how our need for validation through looks can become a form of control. Together, we'll explore how to reclaim your self-worth beyond appearance. If this video spoke to you, subscribe and drop a comment below. What's one step you're taking to create a healthier relationship with intimacy? Let's keep this conversation going. Thank you, and take care.